Happy Monday, everybody. I hope you're having a good day today so far, and I hope you had a good weekend. I had a great weekend. It's my first weekend off in a very, very long time. So that was nice. And when I got off work on Friday, which, by the way, my first week at work was really great. I absolutely love the new job. So Monday, well, as you're listening to this, since I record on Sundays, but as you're listening to this, I'm starting my first day of actual training for what I will be doing the majority of the time at work, and that's going to be 8 weeks long. So I'm excited about that, to get to learn all the new stuff after learning what I learned last week. Anyway, we went to this resale shop, and when you take me to places where they sell books for really cheap, it's a very bad idea, because I am going to buy some, and I found 5 books that I just absolutely had to have. And I was telling the girl, I'm like, man, I really shouldn't be spending money right now, but I just really want these books. And it's not that they were that expensive. It was gonna be like $8.50 for the 5 books, but she's like, oh, I'm gonna do you a favor, I'm gonna let you get 2 for $1. So I got 5 books for $2.70, which is really cool. It was very nice of her to do that. And one of the books I got was The Giver, and if you've never read it, you should. We read it in 5th grade. My 5th grade teacher, Miss Manis, she read that to us, and it was a really, really good book. And I saw it there, and I'm like, yeah, I have to get that book. But then on Saturday, so for my first weekend off in forever, we went to Hawaiian Falls. Me, my mom, my sister, my stepsister, and a girl from my mom's church. And it was so much fun. I had tweeted about it a little bit, and there was this, it's not really an obstacle course. It was the easiest way to explain it on Twitter, but it has those floating pads that you try to walk or run across without falling off. Felt kind of like Wipeout. And me and Alyssa were doing it, but we kept slipping and falling on the second and third ones, and we couldn't get all the way across. And they have like this net rope that goes across the whole thing above you, where you can hold on to get across. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to do it this way. And I did it like 10 times, and my mom was timing me. I did it in 9 seconds. Could have done it in 8, but I fell. But when I woke up on Sunday morning, my arms and my back muscles are so sore. It like hurt to move when I woke up. It was awful. But it was a lot of fun. We went down some slides. There was this green slide where you put several people in it, and you go through this tube, and then you go down this really steep hill, and then hill, and then you go upwards, up a really, really straight uphill, and then slide back down. And we went down backwards, and it felt like I was going to fall out, but it was a lot of fun. And then we went down another slide where you end up in this little bowl and you spin around it. And I don't really like slides, but if they're small, I'll do that. And there was this other slide we wanted to go down, me and Alyssa. We waited in line, and you go through the slide, and then halfway through, there's a bowl you spin around, and then it'll kick you out one side or the other. It just depends on how where you land in the bowl when you're spinning around. So we get all the way up to the top with our float, just to be told, yep, the slide has been closed due to the weather. And this is like the 3rd time that they'd closed everything down and made everybody get out of the water. And so that really sucked. But they did give us rain checks to go back. So, yeah. And my face got a little puffy and swollen, maybe from being out in the sun, maybe sensitive to the sunscreen. I don't know. But it was a lot of fun. We're going to go back in about 2 weeks. So I'm really excited, because I like to swim and everything, but I'm never really able to go anywhere because I was always working. So that was fun. Anyway, by the way, just random thought here. If you're looking for something funny to watch, and I promise you it's really funny, go to Dry Bar Comedy on YouTube. Definitely go watch Shane Smith, Shayne. He is stinking hilarious, and go listen to his joke about Azkaban. If you know, you know. Okay, anyway, let's get started and jump in. Let's read our daily promise. If my internet will load here. What happened? There we go. It says, but now thus saith the Lord that created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed thee, O Israel. Fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name, thou art mine. Isaiah 43:1. We are so precious to the Lord that he calls us his children. It is amazing to know that the Lord calls each one of us by name. Okay, so I want to show this video. My dad showed me a video on Instagram. Now, this is a different one. I was having a difficult time finding the one he showed me, but it's very similar. And it's, well, let's just watch it, and then we'll talk about it. So, if you'll look here, you have a girl here at the ice cream stand, and this woman, she's very cautious watching this guy here in the green shirt on the phone. And you see the car here with the back door open. And this is very similar to the other video I saw, but it was a woman on the phone. And the woman in the other video, she walked up to the little girl that was at the ice cream stand and started rubbing her ponytail. And the girl doesn't really react. Maybe she doesn't know how to react. I don't know. But just so bold and brazen when there's people around that you would do this. And I hope that that somebody got the license plate of that car. But just watch what she does. So you see him. He's on the phone. Now just watch what happens. She's keeping an eye on this man. She knows something's up. Watch this. Man, he was about to grab her. And that woman runs up and takes her. He was, if that girl had not been alert to what he was up to, he would have grabbed that little girl and left. And that's exactly what the woman was doing in the other video. When the little girl started to walk away towards that car, she probably has no idea that someone's trying to kidnap her. And you see the woman start walking towards her, and the lady that worked at the ice cream stand walks over there and puts her arm around her and directs her back in the opposite direction. And if I were this girl that worked there, I'd be getting that license plate and calling the cops and telling them, man, I just stopped a girl from getting kidnapped. You need to go check on these people, because guaranteed this is for human trafficking, no doubt. But I just wanted to show this because this is why you cannot let your children go anywhere without you. You cannot do it. It is not safe these days. They will just grab your kids in the middle of the day in front of people. They don't care. You cannot let your kids out of your sight. It is so dangerous today. So I just wanted to share that. So let's talk about this. I told y'all about the terminal list. We talked about Chris Pratt's reasoning about why he wanted to do that. And let's talk about what Amazon, this is from the Daily Wire by Katie Jerkovic. And it says the terminal list author says Amazon was nervous about a lot of risks in series and shares what changed their minds. Like, if you haven't seen the terminal list, you really need to watch it. It is so good. So it says, former Navy SEAL and author of the terminal list, Jack Carr, said Amazon was nervous about a lot of risks they took in the series, but said all that changed after it tested off the charts with test audiences. On a Tuesday episode of Mike Rowe's podcast, The Way I Heard It with Mike Rowe, Carr opened up about how he really learned on the job about writing a show for the hit TV series based on his best-selling book by the same name. He admitted they took a lot of risks with the series that paid off, but he said the streaming site was initially nervous about some of it. It comes at the 1 hour, 10 minute, and 3 second minute mark? I don't know. Let's see what they're talking about, because I don't know what they're talking about. So this is just a podcast. Okay, well, I don't want to watch the podcast. Okay. He says, quote, I learned a lot about screenwriting over the last couple of years. Took a lot of risks, broke a lot of rules, and Amazon was nervous about a few of them. But in the end, they took those risks right with us. We had a great team, and then when And then when they screened it for test audiences, I think they were still nervous, but then it tested off the charts. I'm not sure I'm allowed to say that, but it tested off the charts. And they infused it with some marketing and advertising dollars after those initial test audiences got back. And now we have what we have today, which is, I think, 95% on Rotten Tomatoes and low on the critic scores, but that was expected. Yeah, so when you ever go to Rotten Tomatoes and you have a really, really high audience score, you are almost guaranteed to have a low critic score. But if you have a really high critic score, you're probably guaranteed to have a low audience score, because critics and audiences are not looking for the same criteria. They're not. So they're never going to be equal, I don't think. It says Rowe asked Carr what he thought about the quote disparity on Rotten Tomatoes between the critics' view of his hit Amazon series and the audience. I see. It's telling you where in the podcast you can hear him talk about these things. Duh. Okay. He says, quote, what I hope it does, what I think it does is Amazon, they have the data. I think what it shows is, hey, there's a market here. And no matter how loud some of those critical voices are who we are making this for. He said, for the point of this project was to make something that spoke to those who have been downrange in Iraq and Afghanistan and other places, something special for them. And that's what we set out to do with that authenticity piece that guided our every move. He said at one point, he talked about one of those things the streaming site was nervous about, the use of a tomahawk, a single-handed axe that is seen throughout the series. Carr said he realized when he got to the end of his book he needed a logo, and he ended up putting 2 tomahawks on the ground together he got from his children, snapped a picture, and it became the symbol for his main character, James Reese. It appears in the opening credits of the show and throughout the series. It also ended up being something used on giant billboards in Los Angeles showing Chris Pratt holding one. So I want to say I think the reason why people loved it so much is because we're tired of all the woke propaganda and all of the entertainment that they're putting out. And this is something real. This is something that veterans have dealt with in the past, the PTSD, just things that they deal with that, we kind of get to peer into the life of these people after they come home. That if you don't have a family member, or maybe your spouse or brother, sister, if you don't have anybody close to you that has been there and been through war and the things that they have seen and then come home, you don't understand what they go through, what the family members go through of these people that have traumas when they come back home. And I don't think you'll ever understand it, but at least we kind of get to peer into that life through the Terminal List, which is really kind of nice. I think that's why a lot of people like it. Okay, so I just wanted to mention that, and I really think you should go watch it. I'm telling you, you will love it. Moving on, let's talk about this jerk here. From Greg Wilson from the Daily Wire, jail guard sold male inmates key to women's wing, unleashing night of terror. And I guess there's lawsuits going on. So it says more than 24 female inmates at an Indiana jail claimed 2 lawsuits that a guard sold a key to their cell block to male prisoners who unleashed a quote-unquote night of terror on them. An initial federal civil rights suit was filed earlier this month by 20 women, and a new one was lodged this week by another 8. Both claim Clark County jail guard David Lowe made $1,000 selling the key to male inmates who allegedly wore towels over their heads as they passed security cameras and entered the female prisoner pod on October 23, 2021. Once there, the men sexually assaulted the women, leaving many with various injuries. They did not leave until the next morning, according to the lawsuits. It says, quote, from the lawsuits, it says, the men repeatedly threatened to sexually assault the women. It was literally 2 of the worst hours of their lives, said Steve Wagner, an attorney for the 8 women who filed suit this week. 2 women reported being, I guess I'm not being monetized, so I can read it. 2 women reported being raped, and others were groped and harassed, according to the lawsuits. Women allegedly suffered bleeding, vaginal tears, and genital herpes. Despite screams for help, no guards came to the aid of the female prisoners during the hours-long attack, according to the lawsuits. Instead, guards allegedly put the women on lockdown and left the jail lights on for 72 hours. Quote, these females were doing everything they could to alert the jail staff. They were pounding on the door for help. They were hitting the buzzer on the inside of the pod in order to alert jail staff. Attorney Bart Bateau told 13 WTHR. Guards also seized, quote, authorized personal property from the women, such as pillows, blankets, and personal hygiene items without any legitimate security reason, according to the lawsuits. The lawsuit filed this week accused Lowe of giving inmates access to the women and being, quote unquote, deliberately indifferent to the, quote unquote, substantial risk they faced. Other jail officers failed their duty to protect female inmates and never intervened to stop the attacks, according to the lawsuits. Lowe was summarily fired and charged with trafficking with an inmate, felony official misconduct, and aiding escape. Clark County Sheriff Jamie Noel is also named in both lawsuits, which accuse him of not providing proper training for the guards. Quote, these systemic failures allowed numerous male assailants to have free run of the jail for several hours, resulting in a night of terror for the plaintiffs and other victims, lawyers for the women declared. Clark County is in the southern portion of the Hoosier State, directly across the Ohio River from Louisville, Kentucky. So there you go. This is what is happening in our prisons. I don't know. This may be the jail guard. I'm not sure. But I think this is the jail guard. And his name was David Lowe. What a piece of garbage. Just, it's really disgusting when you think about it. It really, really is. Okay. Now, as far as celebrities go, I'm not a big fan of most of them. But I do like to watch Russell Brand on YouTube. And while I disagree with a lot of what he says, there are a lot of things that I do agree with as well. And he seems to be coming around to waking up to what is going on in government here in the U.S. and in his own government in the U.K., society in general. And I know he's kind of more on the socialist side of things, but I think he is really seeing the problems that we have with the government and their overreach that they've really started overreaching dramatically for the last 3 years, for sure. Way further than that, but more people are noticing it over the last 3 years. And this comes from Daily Wire as well, from Ryan Cerveda. It says, actor Russell Brand unloads on Nancy Pelosi. You've got to be effing kidding me. So it says, actor Russell Brand blasted House Speaker Nancy Pelosi in a video recently posted on his YouTube channel over stock trades that her husband has made in recent days that line up with legislation being purchased by Congress. Now, I have a video on my YouTube channel. It's not on my Rumble, but on my YouTube channel, I do have a video that I did where I covered Nancy Pelosi and like her upbringing, who her father was, what he was involved in, where she got her tactics to blackmail people and bully people into doing what she wants, and also the fact that her and her husband do this insider trading right before legislation is passed where they can make a lot of money through the stocks, which I do not think anyone in government should be able to own stocks and do trading. I don't think that they should be allowed to do that because they're privy to knowledge that nobody else is privy to, and nobody else is allowed to do it, or they would be charged. Like, what's her name? What was her name that went to prison for insider trading? Martha Stewart. So she got in trouble and she went to prison for it. But Nancy Pelosi and her husband, oh, no problem. You can do it all day long and, you know, make millions of dollars. Sure, go ahead. That's perfectly legal. So, in the video titled, You've Got to Be Effing Kidding Me, Brand suggests that the Pelosi family benefits from Pelosi having quote-unquote insider information. It says, quote, are members of Congress, Nancy Pelosi, becoming rich because they are lucky, or is it because they have access to insider trading information that they can give to their husbands who trade on the stock market? Today we're talking about Nancy Pelosi and the stock market. She has been confronted with the grim truth that possibly some people believe that Nancy Pelosi's trading deals or the Pelosi family's trading deals are somewhat benefiting from Nancy Pelosi's insider information. End quote. Brand played a new clip about recent stocks that Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, had chosen to invest in, including 20,000 shares of NVIDIA, which comes as Congress just voted to spend billions of dollars for the U.S. microchip industry. He says, quote, Now, if you see a connection between Nancy Pelosi debating about whether to give billions of dollars of support to the chip industry and Paul Pelosi investing in the chip industry, you're obviously some sort of conspiracy theorist, Brand mockingly said. Brand then broke down Pelosi's response when a reporter asked her at a recent press conference whether she had ever provided information to her husband that led him to make moves in the stock market. So here it says, if you're asked a difficult question in public and you don't want to answer it, there's a few simple tips. First, ask them to repeat the question, then sort of crane forward all weirdly, Brand said as he played the clip of Pelosi asking the reporter to repeat the question. He said, then say no as if you're sort of offended by that. Even though perhaps all day at work you've debating whether or not to give billions of dollars to the chip industry, your husband has just invested in the chip industry. And to make absolutely sure that people know you disapprove of the question, just give that microphone, just give it a little bobbing down like it's offered you, but then showed reluctance. Fellatio, but then showed reluctance. Okay, then leave, just like altogether, walk right out of there. Don't stop walking till you're at home and you can enjoy some of the money you've made from the chip industry. So let's see how this plays out.
Are members of Congress, Nancy Pelosi, becoming rich because they are lucky, or is it because they have access to insider trading information that they then give to their husbands who trade on the stock market? Hello there, you 5.7 million awakening wonders. Thank you for joining us on this voyage to the chip industry. Personally, I'm on the internet right now. Our most primary committee voted on reining from corruption.
Out of the way.
She is trying to do it. Only 3 hedge funds. A good race to go. Buy. It's precious. Is it with inflators all along? What you mean right now? Don't matter what colour it is. Partisan affiliations to these groups that ultimately more than 30. As soon as someone like it's offered you for like.
What are you saying?
Then sort of crap industry. You're obviously some sort of conspiracy theorist. What if they talk about stuff when they're at home and him being a trader and all, they make some money from those trades?
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information he's received from you?
What are you saying?
If ever you're asked a difficult question in public and you don't want to answer it, there's a few simple tips. First, ask them to repeat the question.
What are you saying?
Then sort of crane forward, all weirdly.
Over the course of your career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information you've received from you?
No.
Then say no, as if you're sort of offended by that.
No.
Even though perhaps all day at work you've been debating whether or not to give billions of dollars to the chip industry. Your husband has just invested in the chip industry.
Absolutely not.
Then to make absolutely sure that people know you disapprove of the question, just give that microphone, just give it a little bobbing down. Like it's offered you fellatio, but then shown reluctance.
Okay, thank you.
Then leave. Just leave altogether. Walk right out there. Don't stop walking till you're at home and you can enjoy some of the money you've made from the chip industry.
Okay, thank you.
If you want to...
Okay, so, yeah, I definitely think that that's what's going on. There's no doubt in my mind, but I guess you have to say alleged, that she's giving her husband information to be able to make those investments in those stocks. He's done it in Visa before, and I think if we looked into it, but the thing is I don't think it's illegal. So even if they are just open and honest about it, I mean, there's really nothing you can do other than maybe try to pass legislation to not allow it. And nobody's going to pass that legislation because everybody would like to be able to do that in Congress to make money. You know, you got to get real people in there who really want to make changes. And right now, we don't really have a whole lot of people left and right that want to make changes. So, and I can't stand Nancy Pelosi, and she needs to go. Okay, moving on. Let's take a look at Elon Musk and what he is up to lately. This is from Louder with Crowder, and this is by Brodigan. It says Elon Musk blasts Wikipedia for recession definition change. They also changed the definition of definition. Now, this is what they've been doing for a while now. They start changing the definitions of words. They change the definition of all kinds of things. So, this is what they like to do. It It says Elon Musk entered the definition wars where we changed the definition of words to mean something different than they mean. Specifically, Musk took issue with big tech company Wikipedia editing the definition of recession and locking people from editing it back. To be clear, before I go on, if you don't know anything about Wikipedia, you can go on there and you can add information to different Wikipedia pages, and you can make your own Wikipedia pages. Now, you can't just edit any. There's you have to edit so many of these lower level Wikipedia pages and work your way up to be able to get to the really popular Wikipedia pages where you can throw in your edits. But sometimes you have to be verified to edit things, and they're not going to verify anybody that they don't want access to those pages. So somebody like me, they're not going to give me access. I think even Steven Crowder doesn't have access to edit certain things, so probably anything really. So that's kind of how Wikipedia works. Continuing on, it says, to be clear, according to Facebook and PolitiFact, the people who control Joe Biden did not change the definition of recession to protect Biden's political agenda. However, sometime before America hit its second quarter of negative growth last Thursday, which has been a recession every time it has happened since 1948, someone changed the definition. So yeah, the definition of a recession is when you have 2 quarters in a row of negative growth. If you have that, bam, you're in a recession. It says it's been reflected on big tech company Wikipedia, where the definition was changed to a more Biden agenda-friendly definition. Now there is, quote, no global consensus on the definition of what a recession is. So this is where we have it here. We're going to look at these Twitter pictures really quickly. So here, this is from July 11th, 2022 and July 28th, 2022. So July 11th, it says, in economics, a recession is a business cycle contraction when there is a general decline in economic activity. Recessions generally occur when there is a widespread drop in spending. This may be, okay, so we see that. Does it say anything about two things? No? Okay. So, if you look at the next one from July 28th, it says, a recession is a business cycle contraction when there's a general decline. Recessions generally occur when there's a widespread drop. So this is where there is no global consensus on the definition of a recession. In the U.S., it is defined as, quote, a significant decline in economic activity spread across the market lasting more than a few months, normally visible in real GDP, real income, employment, industrial production, and wholesale retail sales. In the UK and other countries, it is defined as a negative economic growth for 2 consecutive quarters. So you see how they changed that. What it means in the US is that. And then in the UK and other countries, it's the actual definition of a recession. So, yeah. So here it says a significant decline in, yeah. So the only thing they changed was that they just said that there's not a global consensus on what the definition is. Okay, if you try to change the definition back to the pre-last week version, Wikipedia won't let you. They lock the page from edits. That's where Elon takes exception because it sure does smell like it's being done for political reasons. He says Wikipedia is losing its objectivity. Elon tagged the founder of Wikipedia in a tweet saying the big tech platform is losing its objectivity. An argument can be made that it never had objectivity. Also, Elon hadn't seen anything yet. Wikipedia also changed the definition of the word definition and locked edits on that. So, Jack Posobiec tweeted, amazing, Wikipedia has now changed the definition of the word definition. So it says, a definition is a fluid statement of the meaning of a term, a word, phrase, or other set of symbols. Definitions cannot be easily set into categories as meanings evolve to meet the need of societal change. And 3, a term may have many different senses and multiple meanings and thus require multiple definitions. So after Wikipedia changed the definition of recession and locked the page for editing, they also changed the definition of definition and locked it for editing as well. So you can see here where it shows it's locked. Now definition is no longer a factual statement, it's a fluid statement that evolves to meet the needs of societal change. Like, and I'm just spitballing here, the political agenda of a world leader whose political agenda is shared by the big tech industry. But the definition of recession was not changed to save Joe Biden. That cannot be stressed with a straight face enough. All right. So there you go. If you just go check it out, you will find all sorts of words that they've changed the definition for and locked out the editing to be able to change it back to the proper definition. And that's not to say that natural evolution of a language does not occur, because it does. But this is not natural. This is intentional and on purpose. This is not how language evolves. So be aware of that. Okay. We'll keep talking about the White House here for a minute. This is also by Brodigan. I'm not getting into hypotheticals. The White House refuses to denounce China threats to shoot down Nancy Pelosi's plane. So apparently Nancy Pelosi may be supposed to be flying into Taiwan, and they threatened to take down her plane. China did. Picture it. Washington, D.C., 2019, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi is planning a visit to Taiwan to the disapproval of President Trump. The following dialogue takes place during a White House press briefing. CNN's Jim Acosta. An official who is associated with Chinese state media is suggesting that if Speaker Pelosi tries to go to Taiwan, that her plane could be shot down. Does the president have a response to that? White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany. I'm not going to speak to a hypothetical. All right. Now that you have something to compare, watch this dialogue between Ducey and Karine Jean-Pierre, who sucks at her job. I think I'm going to start calling her Karine Jean-Pierre, like Matt Walsh calls her, because it's pretty funny. Let's check it out.
An official who is associated with Chinese state media is suggesting that if Speaker Pelosi tries to go to Taiwan, her plane could be shot down. Does the president have a response to that?
You know, I've been asked about, I know you're asking specifically about the rhetoric that we're hearing from China, but as it relates to the speaker's travels, it's something that we're just not going to speak to right now. That's a hypothetical. We're just not going to speak on her schedule. As we have said multiple times, we give advice and guidance to any members of Congress where they travel, to the region they travel, whether an advice on geopolitical situation in the region or in the country, and any national security issues that may arise. But again, I'm not going to speak to a hypothetical.
Okay, and on
Okay. So it says, the President of the United States does not have a response to China threatening to kill the Speaker of the House of the United States. In what I'm sure is a totally unrelated note to the White House sucking at communications, this news broke an hour after. Breaking. White House is betting Bill to stay on as communications director. Let's recap. China is very crabby about the idea of Taiwan thinking they can be their own country. So much so that they made John Cena bend the knee I can't read that. Bend the knee. Nancy Pelosi, love or hate her, wants to acknowledge Taiwan with an official visit. Joe Biden and the people who control Biden told her not to. Pelosi said she is going to go anyway because her body, her choice, and how dare Joe Biden mansplain where she goes. China then threatened to kill her, and now the official statement from the White House is, meh. I'm not even upset with the incompetent messaging from the White House as much as I am impressed. Someone who sucks this much at their job would need to concentrate and hone their skills so as to go out of their way to be this terrible, but Karine Jean-Pierre is just a natural at it. Yeah, she's just a... Man, even as much as I didn't like Jen Psaki, she was better at this than she is, for sure. So much better. Okay, we're going to move. I have 3 stories left. We're going to talk about Florida. I have 2 stories that come out of Florida, so we'll do this one first. This is by Joseph Gunderson, and it says, a Florida man arrested attempting to warn U.S. Space Force of aliens and Chinese dragons at the behest of POTUS. I just saw this, and I don't know if you ever go and Google Florida man and get all the crazy stories that come out of Florida, and I just happened to see this, and I'm like, yeah, let's take a look. So it says, Florida man strikes again. For a state with such an awesome governor, there are some crazy people down in Florida. So crazy, in fact, that one Florida man stole a truck and attempted to enter Patrick Space Force Base in Florida. Why was this crazy? Couldn't he have just been another criminal? Sure, but then your everyday crook attempting to gain access to a military base wouldn't be shouting about little green men and fire-breathing mythical creatures, would he? But that's exactly what Military.com reports Corey Johnson did. According to the outlet, quote, Johnson reportedly explained to authorities he was told by the president to warn the government there was U.S. aliens fighting with Chinese dragons, end quote. So he stole an F-150 days before and drove it to the base where he was quickly apprehended and charged with grand theft auto. Now, a few things. First, are we certain the president didn't instruct this man to do this very thing? I mean, it is Joe Biden we're talking about here. The guy isn't exactly all there. I wouldn't be surprised if the guy is telling the truth, and that would simply make him an idiot for believing a single word that escapes Biden's incoherent facehole. However, if he didn't actually receive orders from the president, which again, I wouldn't be surprised, exactly how much of Hunter Biden's crack do you think this guy smoked? Or, and wouldn't this be a twist, what if he smoked a bunch of crack with Hunter and then old Joe issued him his orders? Frankly, I think we need a congressional investigation to get to the bottom of this. I demand real answers. The American people demand answers. We must know if Biden is aware of aliens fighting on behalf of America and if he has evidence of Chinese dragons attacking us. So, not much to really say about that. I just thought it was a funny headline, so I wanted to read it. I have a video that I want to watch about a Florida cop that is being charged. Oh, come on, don't do this to me. Okay, we're gonna have to do this a different way. We'll have to go to somewhere else. Here, we'll go to CNN because, you know, they exaggerate. Okay. So, right here it says, Sergeant is charged with felony battery after he grabbed an officer by the neck during an arrest in Florida. I hope they have the video because I can prove to you he didn't grab her by the neck. Yeah, we have a video here. So, let's play it. This is Sergeant Christopher Pullease. And it's in Florida, and I can't remember. It's the Sunrise Police Department. And so what was going on is they were trying to arrest somebody who was attacking people outside of a convenience store, and he was refusing to get into the police car. And there's like, you'll see, there's like 4 officers trying to get him into the car, but like they're not really trying. They're just repeatedly yelling at him to get into the car. And then the sergeant shows up. And this is what takes place.
All right, let's go. We're going to take a seat.
Watch your head getting into the car.
Ah, miss, can you stop pulling the car? Just get in the car and you'll be fine.
Oh, my wrist. I can't get in the car, so let go. So watch your head into it.
So just get in the car. All right, just get in the car.
Y'all just tell her to stop.
Get in the car.
Get in the car.
Just get in the car.
All right, I'm getting in. Get your feet in. Watch out, motherfucker. Hey, look at me.
I excuse the language.
Look at me. You want to fucking play fucking games? You're playing with the wrong motherfucker.
What you gotta do, man? You gonna mace me?
Look at me, motherfucker. You want to play fucking games? You ever get disrespectful with my fucking officers? I will remove your fucking soul from your fucking body.
Do what you gotta do.
No.
Okay, now, they claim that he choked her. That is not a choke. That is him with his hand on her collarbone, and he'll eventually grab the collar. Now, they're struggling to get this man in the back seat of the police car. Then the sergeant shows up, and immediately he gets in, because I don't know, maybe they know this guy. Maybe they've arrested him before. Maybe he knows the sergeant. Or he can just tell that this guy isn't playing around. That sergeant doesn't put his hands on that man. He doesn't attempt to pepper spray him. He just goes in there and lets him know what's up and tells him to stop playing games. We're not going to have it. And they're just yelling at each other. Nothing is happening. And this idiot woman right here, this female officer who is a rookie, I believe I'm told she's a rookie. I could be wrong when I watched the other video I watched. She goes and grabs the sergeant by his belt and yanks him back. You would see, if it shows the other angle, he does almost trip over his feet and fall. And he tells her, don't put your hands on me. The thing is, he's in the car dealing with this suspect. He doesn't have any idea who's back there pulling on him. And she had no right to do it. And now he's being charged with battery for choking her when you can clearly see he is not choking her. And she needs to mind her own stinking business. You see that? There's his hand right there. That he is not choking her. Let me see if I can go back a little further. See? It's actually, I think, on her radio. How much further can we go back? Okay. Right there. We're going to kind of play this clip by clip. So you see, it lands up on her shoulder by her neck. It's not around her neck. It's on the side by her shoulder. And his hand's kind of rested by her neck and her shoulder. He is not choking her. And then you see his hand go over to her shoulder there by her collar. And it just stays there. And he just tells her, don't touch me. He grabs a radio right there, right? And he slides it down. So he grabs onto her radio. He slides his hand over to the other side of her shirt. He is not choking her at all.
Get the fuck off!
Just let it be.
I don't understand that.
We clear?
Yes, sir.
And I'll fucking see you in about 5 minutes. Everybody turn off their cameras.
Now, some people are upset at the fact that he's telling everybody to turn off their body-worn cameras. The arrest is over. That is all done. And I believe he's telling them to turn off their cameras because he's about to embarrass them so bad. The ones, well, especially that girl, he's about to rip into her. And this is a different matter completely. And he has every right to yell at her. She needs to keep her hands off of him. She has no right to do that. Unless he was in there beating that man to death and doing something that he shouldn't be doing, then you can try and stop it. But you have no right to go and intervene when nothing's actually happening. And this is probably, people probably think that this is a controversial statement. This is why women should not be patrol officers. You want to put them on the police force behind a desk, by all means, go ahead. Doing something where maybe they deal with children, that's fine. Patrol officers, no. We made a huge mistake as a society telling women that they can do everything that men can do. They can't. And that is not to say that there are not women on the police force that are more than capable of handling their own. There are, but that is not the rule. That is the exception. Most female officers cannot take on male criminals. They are not strong enough. And this is why you see the videos of female officers being attacked by male criminals and they can't do anything about it because the man is so much stronger than they are. It's a dangerous situation to be putting women in, and we shouldn't allow it. And that is just my opinion. I'm not saying that people should change it because nobody's going to. They're not going to take that from women. That's fine. But then you're going to have more issues like this. You're going to have more criminals hurting police officers because the women can't control them. You're going to have more women police officers being shot, hurt, killed because they can't handle their own. They're just weaker than the male criminal that they're dealing with. So that's what you're going to end up with. And if that's the kind of police force you want, then by all means, keep letting women get into the police force and not making them have to surpass the same standards as the men and lowering the standards so they can actually get on the police force. Because if you didn't lower the standards, most women would never make it in the first place. That is just my opinion. Women should not be police officers. And extension, they should not be allowed in the military as a fighting force. They can be nurses, they can do work in the offices, they can do this, they can do that. But as far as going into combat, no. Shouldn't be allowed. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, I wanted to share that because I think it's ridiculous that this man is being charged. Let's see what CNN actually has to say about it. The sergeant, 47-year-old Christopher Pullease, was charged with 4 crimes for his conduct, including battery and assault on a law enforcement officer. Now, why is she not being charged with assault? Because she pulled him, just grabbed him and yanked him backwards and almost made him fall over. Why isn't she in trouble? So this was in November of 2021, by the way. That led to a joint criminal investigation that was conducted by the Sunrise Police Department and the Broward State Attorney's Office. Sergeant Pullease has been on administrative leave throughout the course of the investigation. On November 19th, 2021, a suspect had been placed under arrest for a violent felony. Once the suspect was inside the patrol vehicle, police approached and engaged in a verbal altercation with the suspect in a manner that I feel was inappropriate and unprofessional, Chief Rosa said in January. Police was allegedly yelling at the suspect while holding his can of pepper spray. Although he did not deploy the spray, the sergeant's actions unnecessarily elevated the demeanor of the suspect. Whatever, it did not. Come on. The movements of the sergeant and officer are stopped when the officer's back comes into contact with the nearby police vehicle, said Rosa, adding that upon hearing about this incident, I immediately relieved the sergeant of his supervisory responsibilities and ordered an internal affairs investigation. I'm curious what the officer that pulled him away had to say about it. But it says, if convicted, the maximum possible penalties are 5 years in state prison for felony battery on a law enforcement officer, 1 year for assaulting a law enforcement officer, and 60 days for assault on a civilian, according to the state's attorney's statement. The maximum sentence for tampering with evidence is 5 years, according to the statement. Tampering with what evidence? Oh, maybe because he told them to turn off their body-worn cameras? That's stupid. Anyway, this is the problem. I'll repeat what Officer Tatum said. We have a wussified police force in America. They are becoming the big wusses that they can't even handle seeing someone who probably has been on the police force a long time and was a part of it back when police actually did their jobs properly, and they couldn't handle a verbal altercation with the suspect that just violently attacked people and is being arrested for being violent on a felony charge. They can't handle him being yelled at, so they have to intervene and then claim, I was assaulted. I mean, what a woman thing to do, right? What a woman thing to do. You can't handle it, don't be a police officer. Okay, moving on, last thing. I think I have enough time to read it. This is from Daily Wire. It's a review. I don't exactly know what it is because I didn't read all of it, but it's a B.J. Novak's Texas murder mystery, Vengeance Can't Hide Blue State Agenda. This is by Tyler Smith. It says, when a movie's producer, writer, director, and leading star are all the same person, one can't help but take notice. It usually means this person feels particularly passionate about the story being told, so much so that they wear multiple hats just to make sure everything is done exactly to their specifications. Actor B.J. Novak, who most audiences will know from The Office, I don't know who he is, makes his big screen directorial debut with Vengeance, a well-meaning comedy that has genuinely funny and touching moments but becomes too caught up in its messaging. This is always the risk that comes when one person has this much control. One wonders how the film's better elements may have been elevated and had Novak brought in a few more creative voices to help further develop his vision. That he opted to go it alone is truly a shame, as the film features some hilarious exchanges, memorable performances, and generally good intentions, making its ultimate third act stumbles all the more disappointing. The story follows a self-obsessed New York writer named Ben Manilowitz Novak as he's trying to break into the narrative podcast field. He has a few grand ideas about America, but he needs a good story to hang them on. He then receives a call from the family of an old hookup named Abilene Shaw, played by Leo Tipton, who apparently considered Ben a much bigger part of her life than he did. Abilene has died of an apparent drug overdose, and Ben flies to Texas to attend the funeral. While there, Abilene's brother Ty Shaw, played by Boyd Holbrook, expresses his belief that she didn't die by accident. Rather, he believes she was actually murdered. Ben views Ty's delusion as a clear indicator of denial, but he is intrigued nonetheless. He decides that he will stay in Texas and record the story of Ty's search for his sister's murder, hoping to get enough material for a solid true crime podcast. Along the way, Ben learns more about Abilene's family and their way of life, which underlines his own feelings of emptiness. Things become more complex when Ben realizes that there might actually be more to Ty's suspicion of foul play than his initial gut feelings. There are multiple elements to the story which make sense given the investigative nature of the script. Theories are suggested, leads follows, and suspects questioned, and throughout it all, Ben reshapes and presents the search for Abilene's killer in the kind of slick, digestible package that has become all too familiar to true crime podcast listeners. Novak handles this well, but it all leads to an ending that is both overwrought and overwritten, going on and on until the audience can't help but roll its eyes. Perhaps this too is Novak's way of commenting on true crime podcasts, which is so often tries to be trenchant and meaningful in their final moments. If this is Novak's intention, he succeeds. It doesn't necessarily make for the most compelling ending of a film, though. While the investigation is the driving force behind the movie, the story functions first as a fish-out-of-water story as Ben attempts to navigate the foreign culture he is now a part of. As he gets to know more about Abilene's family, he sees them as more than just stereotypes. They're real people with real feelings and intellects. Soon he is allowing himself to actually enjoy the local customs and cuisine, feeling closer to these people than he ever has with his own family or friends back in New York. This element of the film probably works best as it effectively humanizes those characters whom other films might simply dismiss as country bumpkins. It helps that Novak surrounds himself with solid characters, including Luann Stevens of Friday Night Lights, Issa Rae, and the incomparable J. Smith Cameron. The film also features Ashton Kutcher turning in a soulful performance as a record producer. Novak himself does well enough and truly pushes himself as an actor, but the real MVP here is Boyd Holbrook, who finds just the right balance of humor and anger as the extroverted Ty. Holbrook has been in the film industry for a while now, often playing important but ultimately bland characters in films like The Predator and Logan. This film, however, gives him a chance to really cut loose and enjoy himself. He is by far the best part of the film. Unfortunately, though, the film tries to bridge the gap between the urban and the rural and the blue and the red states. There are several moments when it's clear that Novak still very much sees these characters, and by extension these types of people, as inherently different, and himself and people like him as obviously normal. He is no doubt trying to capture Ben's perspective, but he never seems quite able to distance the film from it. Instead, though there are often moments of genuine connection between Ben and the other characters, many of the reluctant concessions that Ben makes too often feel patronizing, an olive branch extended to those who, though obviously misguided, have good hearts. This is best illustrated in a scene of Ben breaking down and screaming at Abilene's family, citing every wrong-headed thing they believe, from climate change to vaccinations. While we're meant to think that Ben is being cruel, the writing, acting, and tone suggests that the film ultimately agrees with him. From that moment on, the family's attitude towards him is much colder. Again, that we're meant to fill in what the film conveys doesn't match up. We're supposed to think that the family's feelings are hurt, but what is actually conveyed is their refusal to face the facts that he was confronting them with. As frustrating as these moments are, I admire Novak for at least attempting them. A story like this is a balancing act, and even the most skilled directors can have a difficult time managing it. B.J. Novak is a talented writer and director, and his desire to find the shared humanity between different cultural groups is a noble one. However, he never quite has a handle on the nuanced tone required to make a story like this work. This is particularly unfortunate, as any misstep with this kind of film will lead to a tone that can be read as condescending and dismissive, no matter the intention of the filmmaker. Vengeance often has its heart in the right place, but the rest of it can't quite catch up. So, if you are looking for something to check out, something new to watch, maybe go check out Vengeance. I might go check it out and see if I see the same thing that they see. It actually does sound kind of good. I love true crime, so I might have to go check that out, and then I'll give you an idea on what it is, and maybe if you should go waste your time watching it or not. So I'm going to end the episode here. Don't forget, you can go to my link tree to get to all of my social media. Please go to Rumble, just got to say something, and what is the word? Subscribe. My goodness. Subscribe, watch my other videos there, and then go to my YouTube channel. You can subscribe there. Hit the notification bell for updates on new videos, and like and share my other videos. You can leave me comments. And you can go check out my video from last Thursday where I did a deep dive into the Marilyn Manson lawsuits with Evan Rachel Wood. And that's gotten quite a lot of views so far. I'm really excited about that. So thank you for the support on that one. That's just part one. Every Thursday I'm going to put out another part and just dive deeper into everything that's going on there. I think it's really important to understand why these women are coming forward with false allegations, and you'll see that they're most likely false when their stories start falling apart, truly. So go check out that one, give that a like and a share. I would really appreciate it, and leave me a comment and let me know what you think. And I hope that you'll join me again. We'll be here Thursday, part 2 of the deep dive of the Marilyn Manson lawsuit. So come hang out with me on that day. Have a good rest of your day. God bless.